towards the Mount Juliet area into Wilson County. A little bit of radar out through there, no surprise, really. We're going to see radar all over Middle Tennessee probably in the next 24, 48 hours. We'll actually build now on 24 over here. It's got heavier east and westbound. Shelby up by the new football stadium. Hey, when you need dependable towing for your car or truck, call STR Towing and Recovery right here in Middle Tennessee. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Local farmers, local meats, vegetables, and other produce at the Winter Spring Rutherford County Farmers Market.
Every Friday at Lane Agri Park.
Rutherford weather.
For tonight, gradually increasing cloud cover, a low of 33. Thanksgiving Day, staying dry, some morning clouds, then clearing skies, high 47. I'm meteorologist Michael Carroll for the WGNS Rutherford Weather Center. Right now, it's 54.
This is Pastor Nikki Ajapong, the lead pastor of Holy Hill Chapel in Murfreesboro.
Here are sermons on WGNS every Sunday night at 7:30.
Our congregation is made up of a variety of nationalities.
Visit Holy Hill Chapel, tn.org to hear our podcast.
From the first pitch to the final buzzer, this is where the conversation starts. All sports talk on WGNS and Big G TV, covering the Preps, MTSU, news from Tennessee and nationwide. Now, here's All Sports Talk on the Good Neighbor Network.
Good afternoon. Welcome to All Sports
And a
Talk.
good Wednesday morning here at the WGNS studios in beautiful Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Dylan Simmons with you. Happy Thanksgiving Eve to all who celebrate. Very cold day outside here in Murfreesboro, but we're going to heat it up on All Sports Talk. A lot of good stuff coming up. MTSU men's and women's basketball. MTSU football. We'll talk a little college football as well in general. All that good stuff and more on the way. Today, pleased to be joined by the one and only Willie Failer, a man of many talents. He is the co-sports editor now for MTSU Sidelines and is also a sports broadcaster for radio station WLIJ out of Shelbyville, Tennessee. Willie, my man, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Dylan. I'm happy to be here with you.
Man, it's cool to have you on. We've had a lot of good conversations over the past few years and months, and I think we're on the verge of another good one today. So you're an expert when it comes to a lot of things MTSU, a very, very high-quality reporter as far as MTSU Sidelines goes, and you've been watching a lot of MTSU basketball over the past couple of weeks. We'll start with the men's team. Because they're coming off a couple, really 3 big games out of state recently. Played against McNeese State, George Washington, and Murray State, and got the win over Murray State to start. Really high-quality performances. Alec Oglesby was 17 in that game, but the big story, Torrey Alston, 26-16 versus Murray State. Of course, they fought hard in the other 2 games, couldn't quite come away with the victory, but still high-quality performances from Kamari Lange, Javin Carter, Alec Oglesby, and more. Looking in at all of those games, did anything stick out to you, and how do you think MTSU performed overall in those games?
I mean, I think the big standout for me was the McNeese loss, because McNeese was by far, whether you look at net or KenPom ratings, they were far and ahead the best team in that tournament. So the Blue Raiders, hanging with them, only lost by 10, 72-62. And I mean, of course, you're never happy about a loss, but a team that's predicted to contend like that and really one of the top mid-majors in college basketball, I don't think you can be too upset with a loss, especially that being the 3rd game in a 3-day tournament where you're playing back-to-back-to-back. They're in a foreign country. They're in a different time zone, in a weird gym, weird broadcast, very odd setup. So they really hung with McNeese, and that was after Torrey Alston was pretty much taken out of the game by the Pokes defense. He kind of carried them through those first 2 games, and then you saw some other guys step up. Kamari Lands having a big day on offense for them.
Yeah, and really Kamari Lands has been a superstar for them this year. Of course, that's an obvious statement for anyone who's watched MTSU men's basketball. You know, he was projected to take a big step going into this season. Preseason All-CUSA first-team player, and he's shown out and been pretty consistent overall. And I think the thing with him is that he's got the most likelihood, or the best likelihood, and the most ability to come out with those huge scoring barrages that really help MTSU.
Yeah, I mean, he's a microwave scorer for sure, and I mean, that's the kind of the standout about this team just throughout the year so far, is although it might not have the same amount of talent that they did last year, the team chemistry is way up, and it feels like there's 4 or 5 different guys that could go out and get you 25 if you need it on a given night. We've seen Kamari do it. We saw Torrey do it in the first game. And another guy that's really took a step forward since he's come to Murfreesboro has been Javin Carter, guy from Alcoa, I think 2-time Mr. Basketball in the 2A division. And he's really jumped out. He had 13 in the game against McNeese, had 13 in the game before against GW, I believe.
Yes.
And was really able to show out in a couple of those home games before they started taking on D1 opponents. I know he was in double-figure scoring against Webster, and it was a career high for him. I want to say it was around 18.
Yeah, I think that sounds correct. And again, like you talked about, that's a really good point, is that this men's team, although they've got Kamari Lands, they've also got a variety of other superstar basketball players that can come out and get you 10, 12 a night on a moment's notice. That's a huge asset to have when it comes to the development of this offense and the development of this team in general. Overall, if you had to pick, who has impressed you most from this roster so far?
I really lean towards Javin Carter. I mean, he was a guy in a story that I was excited about coming out of the offseason, seeing Ja come home to Tennessee and come to Murfreesboro, because growing up in East Tennessee, I got the opportunity to see him play a couple times when he was with Alcoa.
Yeah.
And I think everybody in the Knoxville area was pretty shocked when he committed to Penn State. It was like, awesome for Javin, and that's a big deal for,
huge deal, yeah,
for a guy like that to get a offer and commit to a school that's kind of out of state and create his own pipeline. But it never really made sense. Penn State not known as a basketball school. So I think him transferring down to Murfreesboro and coming to play for Middle opens up a home for him. And I mean, he got his first start on the road that came in. Trey Green out of the lineup for whatever reason. Hope everything's okay there. But Ja being able to come up, and he really just adds to a team that needed some guard depth after Justin Porter transferred. So I think him and Sean Smith holding it down in the backcourt, but Ja been a big standout for me.
Yeah, he's been really impressive this first couple of weeks for MTSU so far. We had a conversation about this men's team before the season started, and you told me that they would be pretty heavily reliant, as far as what Nick McDevitt had told you, on the three-point shot. As far as what you've seen offensively from them this season, do you think that that reflects what you thought they'd be in the preseason? Have they made any sort of adjustments? And do you think the offense will evolve and change, or I guess be different in some sort of way as the season progresses forward?
Yeah, I mean, Nick had said that they were going to be a team that shoots a lot of threes, but it's not going to be forced threes. They're going to take those threes when they're open. It was a little concerning at the start of the year, I would say. The scrimmage they had in Clarksville against Austin P, they shot around 43s. Then I think the opener against Milligan, they were close to that number. It was about 35. And so it was kind of like, that's a that's such a big number of threes, and that's not an area that I feel like a team wants to live in. But as the season's gone on, they're starting to drive inside more and really not settle for twos, but find more open looks inside the arc.
Right.
But the main reason for that is Assam Mustafa not being there. I mean, he was really a true back-to-the-basket big and a guy that was going to go down there, post up, and, work around, try to find a spin move. But now with Chris Loof inserted to the starting lineup in place of Assam after he graduated, he doesn't fit that mold. He's more of a guy that's going to be on the perimeter, more of a guy that's going to be shooting the ball and really letting those guards play. And so they're going to be shooting the ball a lot compared to last year, but it's not going to be an astronomical number like I thought it might be.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, is that they're going to develop more and more. And really that's kind of the key for both basketball teams, is that they're going to develop, they're going to gain more of an identity as the season moves forward. And that's going to be really interesting to see just how much they develop and what kind of teams they grow into. Always a fun thing to check out. When you look at the upcoming schedule for this men's basketball team, obviously a couple of big games on the way. UAB, Belmont coming up next. Any expectations from what you've seen so far for those games that the people can be watching out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really, the game next Monday against UAB is a really exciting opportunity for the Blue Raiders. This is the first time they've played UAB without Yaxel Lindeborg, who has since transferred to Michigan. He was in consideration to go in the draft. Probably would have been a lottery pick if he didn't go back to school towards that tail end, maybe falling in that 11 to 15 range. Probably that seemed to be the hot number for him. So Yaxel Lindeborg not being there for UAB takes a lot of the punch out of that program as a whole in basketball. I mean, I know there's still playing very well. I believe they're 6-1 right now on a 6-game winning streak. So
Yeah.
still not a team to slouch on, but still an opportunity for the Blue Raiders. And just being back in the Glass House in general, they haven't played there since early November, that game against Webster. And so I think them just being back in town is exciting for this team. It's going to give them an opportunity to get back more towards what they know. Because, I mean, they did well on the road. That Evansville game, it was tight and really a toss-up going into it. And then you go up to Michigan, and that went how it was going to go. I mean, they got paid $90,000 to take the trip to Ann Arbor. So
loaded team up there in Ann Arbor.
Absolutely. And I'm close at half. They were down around 6, I want to say.
Yeah.
And lost by 20. But, I mean, there were certainly positives to take from that. And the Cayman tournament is tournament-style setting. It's you play there to prepare yourself for March, for that Conference USA tournament, and then for whatever other postseasons you're able to get in. So I think UAB and Belmont are going to be 2 more big mid-major tests to really skill yourself against competition that you're going to see in the postseason before you kind of switch gears really quick into conference play. Kennesaw coming on December 17th, and then there's a little bit more on the non-conference slate. But I think those 2 are 2 high-quality teams, and I think that can really show what this Blue Raider team could be capable of when they're not in such an odd situation like the Cayman tournament was.
Yeah, don't sleep on the month of December. I think a lot of people kind of check out of basketball and kind of reattach themselves to it in January when the conference play starts up. But don't sleep on December for this men's basketball team. A lot of crucial games coming up. You talked about that Kennesaw game in mid-December, and like you mentioned, it's going to be just good to see them in Murphy Center again. I didn't realize it had been basically 3 weeks since they had played Webster at home, so it'll be good to see them back in the Glass House. Switching gears to women's basketball, they were also on the road this week for the Emerald Coast Games. Got a win against Providence, lost to Mississippi State. But we did see some positive signs. Blair Bogus had 17 points. Elena Contreras with 22 in that first game against Providence. Macy Pfeiffer had 13 against Mississippi State. Women's basketball 3-4 to start the season. And I know what the record sounds like, but I think the important thing to remember, and I'm sure you would agree, is that they've had a really tough go at it as far as who they've had to play early on in the year. Mississippi State, Tennessee, Tennessee Tech, just to name a few. But that kind of tough out-of-conference schedule, that's what Coach Insel likes.
Yeah, I mean, that's really a thing he harps on is you got to get ready now because Conference USA isn't really going to prepare them to be where they want to be when it's tournament time, because this is a team that plays to play in the big dance. It's not, oh, let's go have a chance to get in and, you know, maybe we'll have some fun down in Huntsville at the Conference USA tournament.
Right.
They're there to win, and they're there to, you know, go to some crazy neutral site, end up playing in Cleveland, Ohio, and you match up with an LSU or, you know, another SEC team like that and try to make some noise in the big dance. And so, I mean, it's by design for them. And when you look at this roster, I think coming into the year, at least our expectations at Sidelines between me and our women's beat writer, Jacob Burgess, it was going to be a rebuilding year anyways. I mean, you lose a lot of seniors from last year's team that was pretty loaded. And so a lot of new faces for that team. But I think going down there and just coming out with the positive of beating Providence, you got to be pretty happy with that because Providence is not a team to sleep on. Very, very good basketball program, whether it's men's or women's. And, I mean, the Mississippi State game, sure, it didn't go their way, but still some exciting things to see. I think Kirsten Verhulst stepping up the way she has, running the point for this team is a really good sign because Yuhan Lin maybe not living up to the expectations that some had for her. I mean, it was pretty exciting to watch her in those exhibitions. It's kind of fits more that mold for the men's team where it's a microwave score and she can really get going on her own and play some ISO ball, but struggles early on running that offense the way that the coaching staff might like. And so seems like Verhulst might be the one to kind of step into that role more for now while Yuhan gets more adjusted to collegiate basketball.
And real quick, one more point you talked about with women's basketball team that I really liked was that this is a very young team. I think Jake Rose, who calls the ESPN Plus broadcast for MTSU basketball, men's and women's, he made a statement that they were arguably the youngest team in the country. I don't know if that's entirely accurate, but, you know, it's at least probably close. There's a lot of youth on this team. One of their primary leaders right now is Savannah Davis, and she's only a sophomore. So this is a team that it's important to remember is still discovering who they are and who's going to be their leaders as they march forward throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can point point towards Elena Contreras as well, just because she's I believe she is the only senior on this team.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, she certainly has the most experience, but I believe it's 3 returners from last year's team, and Savannah the only one seeing real minutes. So certainly that's a name to point at in the leadership role. And back to the point on youngest team in the country, I certainly believe you on that one. I mean, I'm sure there's some other teams contending, but it is a lot of freshmen. It's 3 freshmen and a sophomore in your starting 5, along with a transfer senior. So a lot of new faces for the Lady Raiders, and certainly going to take some time for them to adjust. And having such a treacherous non-conference schedule, it's not a cakewalk for them.
No. Not by any means. And usually Jake Rose is pretty good with his stats, so I think we can believe him on that. But it's going to be fun to watch this women's basketball team the rest of the year. Obviously, they've got some big games on the horizon as well. Belmont's going to be coming up a week from today. They host Memphis in the Glass House on December 7th, so it's going to be a fun stretch run. And one thing that was interesting that Coach Insel said, I think towards the start of the year, is that in his close to, I think, 45 years of coaching, he's never had this little returning talent and this young of a team in his career. So this is a new kind of challenge for him, but he and the team, I think they're going to figure it out, more and more as the season moves forward. All right, WGNS time is 5:20. When we come back, we're going to talk MTSU football, so don't go anywhere. Back in a few right here on All Sports Talk.
Are you paying too much for home and auto insurance? Let the experienced professionals at My Team Insurance in Murfreesboro help. With decades of experience, their team provides superior customer service, low rates, and a clear understanding of your coverage needs. Whether it's home, auto, health, business, or life insurance, My Team Insurance makes protection simple and affordable. Visit myteaminsurance.com today. That's myteaminsurance.com. My Team Insurance, proud supporters of the Blue Raiders.
Whether you need general vehicle upkeep and maintenance or a complete vehicle overhaul, Hall's Auto Care is here for you. We're locally owned and operated by Greg Hall and have been in business since 2014. You'll get excellent service and trustworthy advice with Hall's Auto Care. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. We're ready to help get you safely on the road. Hall's Auto Care, 907 Ridgely Road, just off Broad Street behind Chili's. Online at hallsautocare.net. Hall's Auto Care.
This is Chip Walters, and I'm honored to be your 2024 MTAR Realtor of the Year. I'm with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, and like many of you, I've seen the real estate market shift and change. People often ask, Chip, what's really going on? Well, that's a great question, and I believe in answering with solid, factual data. So let's cut through some of the noise. I invite you to reach out. Let's have a conversation about your real estate goals and the current market trends in your neighborhood. You can find all my contact information at choosechip.net.
Every team knows which play can be a winning move. I'm State Farm Agent Andy Womack, here to help life go right by combining your home and auto insurance. Call me today at 615-890-0850. It's a winning move that saves you time and money. Your ride, your stuff. You live with them together. I'm State Farm Agent Andy Womack. It's smart to protect them together, to help life go right. Give me a call at 615-890-0850 and let me help you save by combining your auto and renters.
Clark's Auction Company will get you top dollar for your property.
Clark's has a team of experienced auctioneers and realtors who make selling your property simple. Whether you're selling your home, farm, or have an estate to settle, auctions are easy, fast, and profitable. You don't have to worry about the hassle of updates, repairs, or showings, and you'll receive multiple offers on auction day.
Clark's Auction Company will get you top dollar for your property.
Clark's Auction Company, committed to auction excellence.
Sold it to you, 27.5.
Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home has served Murfreesboro families with compassion and care since 1880. As a family-owned funeral home, we're committed to honoring every life with dignity through traditional services, cremation options, and pre-planning that gives you peace of mind. For over 140 years, we've been here when it matters most. Visit JenningsandAyers.com. Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home, honoring life and comforting families since 1880.
It's got a little bit heavier on 40 East, passing Donaldson Pike, all that traffic making its way out towards the Mount Juliet area into Wilson County. A little bit of radar out through there, no surprise, really. You're going to see radar all over Middle Tennessee probably the next 48 hours. Watching it build now on 24 over here. It's got heavier east and westbound. It's Shelby up by the new football stadium. Hey, when you need dependable towing for your car or truck, call STR Towing and Recovery right here in Middle Tennessee. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
It's all sports talk from the Good Neighbor Network, FM 1019, 100.5, AM 1450, wgnsradio.com, and Big G TV.
Happy Thanksgiving Eve. Hope you're settling in near the fireplace on this cold Thanksgiving Eve night. Dylan Simmons and my special guest, Willie Failer, with you today, talking MTSU athletics, about to talk about MTSU football. And we were both there at the game this past Saturday against Sam Houston at Johnny Red Floyd Stadium. What a big win for the Blue Raiders. It had been something that obviously they'd been looking for a while. It's been a trying season for them. But to get that win in that situation with the freshman quarterback Roman Gagliano, it felt just so relieving, and I could feel the excitement from the Blue Raiders after that win.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like it was just a weight off of everybody in that program's shoulders, but at this point, with it clearing and kind of looking at the numbers and what happened, I just think we could safely say that it's Roman's empire and we're all living in it at this point. I mean, Roman stepping in place of the injured Nick Vadiato and just kind of not transforming the offense. They haven't changed too much of what they do, but his scrambling ability and the ability to extend plays, and his arm is very lively and just spreading the ball around, and they're able to find success.
Yes, and that has been the key word, success, with Roman Gagliano so far. We saw how he played against Western Kentucky, but he really put it together against Sam Houston. It is early, but in his first 2 games, over 600 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. In an early sample size, you kind of just talked about it. What is he doing right that's helping this offense? And is that sort of renewed energy spreading to the rest of the team in your mind and really helping this team get to that next level they've been looking for?
The 2 main things that have jumped out to me about what Roman's been able to do is his ability to extend plays and run. I mean, Nick was very, very good at that. He's tough as nails and will take anything in the pocket. I really admire what he's able to do as a football player. But Roman's legs, and especially in the red zone, because this is a team I feel like half of the headlines on Sidelines football section for game stories was really red zone woes and penalties, some mixture of the 2 of those. And so Roman's running ability has really been able to kind of help this team inside the opposing 20-yard line find the end zone. He's extending plays, he's finding the goal line, and then the other thing is controlling the turnovers. And it wasn't really an issue in the first place. It was really more fumbles than anything that had hurt this team within the last month. But no turnovers from Roman yet. He's put the ball on the deck a couple times, but it's been recovered. But he's avoiding those interceptions, which is really important for a young passer. He's been able to find those short, easy completions early, and that really gets him into that groove later into the game and leads to runs like they had against Sam Houston, where they went from the 9:45 marker in the second quarter until deep into garbage time in the fourth quarter. They were on a 31-0 run, and that's something that this team hasn't seen since Derek Mason's taken this job.
Yeah, that kind of run kind of tells the story as far as how dominant they were down the stretch. And you got to give credit to, and I know this is going to sound weird, that young man. I know it sounds weird coming from a 22-year-old, but to me, he is a young man. He's 4 or 5 years younger than I am. But to step up in that role as a freshman with a guy who's been there as long as Nick Vadiato, who understands the offense, has been the leader for that team for so long, being put into that situation and succeeding in the way that he has, I think it really speaks to the mentality and composure of what he's been able to do. It's really hard to succeed in that kind of situation. So, Willie, you got to give Roman credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it falls on him being able to take the redshirt year last year.
Sure.
And talking to Roman, I mean, he's obviously as much of a main character role as he is playing right now. He's certainly not the first to take credit for it. I mean, big on the credit to his coaches and his teammate type stuff, but the big thing is how much he credits Nick in his development, because I mean, those two very close. They even had their own podcast together through the athletic department.
That's right.
Nick and Roman's Empire, and he was very, very quick to plug it in the press conference. It was kind of funny, but he's not shy to say how much Nick has helped him, and I think in a perfect world to Roman, I mean, I'm sure he's thrilled to be playing, but I think he'd rather see Nick, a guy who's his mentor, play out his last 3 games of his senior season. But since he hasn't been able to, really stepping in there and just doing the best he can to keep this offense functioning. And really, it's turned out to where it's been running better.
As good as Roman's been so far, too, you really got to credit the entire team for what they did on Saturday against Sam Houston. As far as I can tell, when you talk about total team performance, that's the best that they've had all season. You talked about that 31-0 run. After the first quarter, they were a little bit skittish in the first quarter, got behind 10-0 early on, but after that point, it seemed like they locked in, as the kids would say. Went on that huge stretch run. The defense played lights out the rest of the way, really bottled up Sam Houston, and it felt like everything started to kind of synergize, for lack of a better term, because you know as well as anybody, football is a momentum game, and once you get the ball rolling on one aspect of the game, for one of your offense, defense, special teams, that can translate to the rest of your team. Once the offense got going, the defense started to feel it a little bit more. That energy kind of became overwhelming for Middle Tennessee against Sam Houston, and they were able to pull away, especially in that second half. The fourth quarter, closing it down the way they did was ultra impressive, and that kind of killer mentality in the fourth quarter, that's been what MTSU's been looking for all season, and it seemed like against Sam Houston they found their way to a victory.
Yeah, I mean, it really feels like it's the first time all year that they've been able to play a four-quarter ball game, and that's one of the first things that Derek Mason would commonly point out after a loss, whether it be, at home, on the road, closely contested, or blowout. It's that there was that one quarter that got away from him, and typically it had been the first quarter where that offense starts slow and the defense is taking a minute to figure out, and that's really kind of what was going on. Offense really struggled through the first 15 minutes, and quarterback Landon Locke, a true freshman for Sam Houston, at least to me, it wasn't the feeling that he was going to start talking to people in the Huntsville, Texas area. The thought around was that Mabry Matauer was going to get the start because although Locke was the better option, Matauer having a pretty abysmal year so far for the Bearcats in place of Hunter Watson, they wanted Locke to preserve that red shirt, and then so thought was Matauer was going to come out. We see Locke trot out there, leads a field goal drive, and then finds Chris Reed for a 54-yard touchdown early in the first quarter, and it was almost about oh man, here we go again. It's going to start getting away from them a little bit. They'll claw back, make it close as they have with most of the conference games outside of the trip up to Western, where that one kind of got away from them late. But that offense, credit to them, they really came back, battled back. Ricky Hunt getting on the board for the first time as a Blue Raider, getting a field goal right before half to knot it up at 10. That felt like it was huge. And then from there, it was a 0-0 ball game, and that offense just came out of the break on fire.
It's tough to learn how to win a football game, and sometimes it's even tougher to know how to respond when you're down. Like you mentioned, it's easy to panic when you're down by double digits, even early in that situation. Even when you have time to come back, it's easy to kind of get in your own head. And what MTSU did is they didn't allow that to happen. They stayed composed, they stuck with the game plan, and they put it all together against Sam Houston. I was super, super impressed. I was calling that game for our student radio, MTN Sports. Shout out if you're interested. I think it's on YouTube now, so check that out if you're curious. But it was a really, really important win, and I was super proud of what the team was able to do. And that kind of leads into their next game. They're going to be on the road this Saturday, final game of the regular season, going all the way to Las Cruces to take on New Mexico State, the Aggies. We talked about this on the car ride over from MTSU, but to me, the Blue Raiders have a real opportunity to finish strong and end up with back-to-back wins this year. Looking at this early, and I know you've scouted it out just a little bit, what does MTSU have to do to put that together and get a win versus the Aggies?
Well, New Mexico State is pretty much in the same spot as the Blue Raiders are, although a couple more of those one-possession games have gone in the way of New Mexico State. Similar spot. Quarterback Logan Fife is questionable right now for the Aggies. He's very comparable to what Vadiato has done this year. He's transferring in from Montana, I believe, lit it up at the FCS level for a couple years in the Big Sky Conference. Bumped up to Conference USA. Hasn't really found exactly what he's wanted. I interviewed Nick Capola, who's a beat writer of the Aggies for the Las Cruces Sun-Times, and he compared Fife directly to Vadiato, called him a watered-down version of Nick. And it shows on the stat sheet. Fife sitting 5th or 6th in Conference USA in passing, has a bit of a turnover problem and missed their game last week against UTEP, which is the Battle of I-10, one of their bigger rivalries. In UTEP, really not the best measuring stick. They've had a pretty rough year. Scotty Walden showing up on a lot of hot seat lists now for his job. Malachi Nelson not really lighting the world on fire. So for the Blue Raiders, I really think they just have to stick to what they've been doing. That front seven has been really, really stout, and there's a lot of guys that are going to be in their last game, whether it's your DeMonte Smiths of the world, your Parker Hughes, they're going to come out there with something to prove. So I think offensively, I'm not as much worried as the Aggies as I am defensively, because now there's 2 games of Roman Gagliano tape.
Right.
And so this Aggies defense can really prepare, because I think Western Kentucky was kind of coming in blind to that matchup against Roman. It wasn't announced until 2 nights before the game was when Sidelines got word of that. We were first to break it. Quick little plug there.
They were. Check out their article on their website, mtsusidelines.com. Keep going.
Yeah, and so I think now that there's been 2 full games of Roman tape, that gives teams kind of an opportunity to look at how to stop him. Really, that starts with containing him inside the pocket, because that's when that's when he's been able to find a lot of successes, extending the plays and then getting downfield. I think we all remember the run he had against Western in the second quarter. He was just dancing down the sideline. It was one of the craziest runs I've ever seen, especially from a quarterback in his first collegiate start. So I think a key for the Aggies is keeping him roped in, and that might lead the Blue Raiders tapping into more of the run game, which is not their strong suit. They really don't like to. Bodie Reeder, offensive coordinator, loves to throw the ball. But Jaquel Middlebrook, Ricky Hunt, DJ Taylor are really, really talented running back room. So it might be time for them to really start running the ball against a team that struggled to stop the run.
And don't forget, they leaned on Middlebrook pretty heavily in that Sam Houston game. He had another 100-plus yard rushing performance. I think he's, I want to say, 6th right now in CUSA in total rushing yards. So about middle of the pack, but he has a lot of talent, and he can generate explosive runs. The good thing about Middlebrook and some of those rushing attack players as well is that they can get out in the passing game and also be a threat. I think Middlebrook's got the 3rd or 4th most receptions on the team right now. That's another element that New Mexico State's going to have to watch out for. And I think you made a really good point when it comes to Roman and his way of making stuff happen when the play breaks down, especially when it comes to running the football. Those wheels that he's got Barry Allen speed, and he can certainly take off against any defense he plays. So I'm going to be very curious to see how New Mexico State handles that. And like you said, if the magic doesn't maybe run out, but does dwindle just a little bit, because as sometimes quarterbacks, and especially young quarterbacks, get further on into a season or further on into their career, teams begin to notice a bit more about them. They have to kind of change their game. So I'm curious to see how Roman will adapt to that and how MTSU will play. But this MTSU team, if they can get a win against New Mexico State here in the final game of the regular season, could be absolutely huge. Obviously, not going to get them bowl eligibility this year, but still, you get back-to-back wins, and with some of the young pieces on your roster, you look ahead to next year, which we do officially now know that Derek Mason will be returning next year, could be a huge momentum builder, I'd imagine, for MTSU, Willie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think there were too many people that are tapped in with the program media-wise that really thought Derek was going to be let go of. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there listening, a lot of people on Twitter that were hoping for that. There's a lot, just the turnover rate for head coaches in college football right now is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But Derek's contract,
every week a new coach gets fired.
Yeah, but I think Derek's contract didn't really put the school in a position, regardless, even if they wanted to get rid of him, that they could. So I think that was a part of it. And the other thing is it's a process to rebuild a team, especially now with what has become the group of 6 and NIL. It's not a crazy easy turnaround. You've really got to be one of those higher echelon G6 teams sitting in the American, like a South Florida, that still has the ability to pull that money, where the Blue Raiders don't have that kind of NIL resource to where they can get in full-on bidding wars for kids. So I think you've got to recruit in-house, which is what Coach Mason is very big on, in recruiting the area. Those are really his 2 emphases. And so I think him sticking around, and I think getting to go 3-9 in year 2, I think the difference between 3-9 and 2-10 right now is really, really big for what they can say to recruits and their recruiting pitch. But looking ahead to the kind of freshman recruiting class they have coming up, early National Signing Day within 2 weeks, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only 3 or 4 guys committed right now. So I think the Blue Raiders are going to be pretty hot on the recruiting trail, especially in the Murfreesboro area. A lot of talent. I know a Oakland running back, Justice Haggard, going to be on an official visit for the Blue Raiders this week. So good to see that they're starting to pick it up on the recruiting trail. Derek got confirmation, and it was put out to the media that he's staying. So I really think that can give them a boost going into the offseason.
You think they're going to go heavy portal in the offseason as well?
Derek says that he doesn't want to, and I don't think anybody wants to. I think it's really hard to build through the portal. It's much better to build that homegrown talent, have guys in-house, and just have the guys that you've coached and that have practiced with you and that you know what they're capable of. Let them build up until they're the stars of your team. But I think just where college football sits right now, I think there's a few guys looking at this roster that know they're on the way out. I think there's going to be a lot of lost production from this year's team. So I think everybody's got to live through the portal at this point. But I think the Blue Raiders really only want to have 10 to 15 real contributors coming from the portal, whereas the rest of it's filling your roster out and just making sure you've got enough to be a college football team. But you still, I think most of that core is going to be guys that they retain and guys that they bring in through actual high school recruiting.
It's the modern world of college football. NIL, transfer portal, it's hard to keep up with it at all. And speaking of college football, when we come back here on All Sports Talk, we're going to talk last night's CFP rankings reveal and some of the biggest matchups for the final week of the regular season. All that and more on the way. Don't go anywhere. Back in a few right here on WGNS.
We do it your way at Sir Pizza.
Your favorites can now be ordered online at sirpizzatn.com. Carryout and delivery are available. Just go to sirpizzatn.com and tap the location closest to you.
Life changes, then it changes again. Hi, I'm Edward Jones Financial Advisor Lee Colvin. A job loss, change in health, or loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure that you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Stop by our office in the Public Shopping Center on South Rutherford Boulevard or give us a call at 615-907-7056 for an appointment. Edward Jones, Making Sense of Investing, member SIPC.
Woke radical liberals are screwing up this country, but Senator Bill Hagerty is fighting back. He backed one big, beautiful tax cut for working families, ending Social Security taxes for nearly all seniors, and taxes on tips and overtime gone. So call Senator Bill Hagerty at 202-224-4944 and thank him for backing working family tax cuts and putting America first. Paid for by American Prosperity Alliance.
Sign-ups are going on right now for First Shot's Winter Basketball League in Rutherford County. Coach Andy Herzer guides kids to sharpen basketball skills and build teamwork through exciting clinics and games. Since 2003, First Shot has empowered youth to grow in mind, spirit, and body. Don't miss out, join the fun, and develop lifelong skills. Visit firstshottn.org today and register for the Winter Basketball League. That's firstshottn.org.
When severe weather strikes, we break in.
A tornado watch is in effect for Rutherford County.
The most up-to-date weather information.
We'll be here with you on radio and with Rutherford Weather Video Channel.
Rutherford weather updates on WGNS and watch on YouTube and Facebook with Rutherford Weather.
Next on All Sports Talk, it's the Blue Raider Insider Report with Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am not Chip Walters. I'm Brian Barrett, sitting in for Chip Walters this afternoon for the Blue Raider Insider Report. Chipper is headed back, I think, from the basketball trip to the Grand Caymans and getting ready to head off to New Mexico State for this weekend's final Middle Tennessee football game of the regular season. So we'll have coverage of that at 12:30. On Saturday. That'll be the pregame show with Dick Palmer and J.P. Plant, and then we'll have Chip and Joe with the coverage kickoff set for, 12:30, 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. Hour and a half pregame show. So we've got all that for you coming up on Saturday. Next week, the Blue Raiders in basketball will host UAB on Monday. That's men's basketball. And then women will host Belmont on Wednesday, 6 o'clock. That's airtime here on WGNS. So we'll be exclusively into the hoops starting next week. UAB at home on Monday, Belmont at home on Wednesday for the women. And good time to get out to the Glass House and see the men's and women's basketball teams who had success on the road. The women playing in Destin, Florida, and the men in the Grand Cayman Islands. So with that, let me turn to a little high school since that's more up my alley, if you will. Coming up on Friday night, we have the semifinal matchup between Oakland and Blackman. I know it's the Blue Raider Insider Report, but we're all football fans here, right? First time ever for Rutherford County to have two teams in the semifinals. Oakland 13-0, ranked number 1 in the state. Blackman 12-1, ranked 4th in the state. That one loss to Oakland, 32-0, by the way, in week 6 of the regular season. How did those teams get there? Well, Oakland had to come from behind with 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns to beat Green Hill 21-17, and Blackman just really pummeled Maryville. We did that game last Friday night on the air, 31-7, the final score in that. So it's going to be a huge crowd. Hope you'll listen. So head to the game, okay? But many ways to listen. If you've got a radio, take that with you, of course, your streaming device, whatever that might be, tablet, phone, we've got you covered on Friday night for sure. Oakland leads the overall series 24-7 and is currently on a 15-game win streak, but that was in jeopardy in 2024. Oakland eking out a 13-12 win in a defensive struggle, and the Patriots actually had to block a short field goal attempt to keep Blackman from winning that game. So they've had some really good games in this series, but never before in the semifinals until now, so it's going to be a fun time on Friday night. Now, one thing that does do, this is Oakland's 12th semifinal, by the way. We've had a team in the semifinals from Rutherford County 28 straight years, and 31 out of the last 32 years, a team at least in the semis, if not in the championship game or winning a state title. We know that with this 2 Rutherford County team matchup in the semifinals, that one of those will move on to play in the state championship game on the 6th, which is a Saturday, and that will be 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time kickoff for that. Okay, well, that is it here for the Blue Raider Insider Report with a little high school flair for you here on All Sports Talk. Chip Walters back with you on Saturday for the Blue Raider game at New Mexico State.
It's All Sports Talk from the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9, 100.5, AM 1450, wgnsradio.com, and Big G TV.
Welcome back to All Sports Talk.
Welcome back, Dylan Simmons and Willie Failer here on Thanksgiving Eve for All Sports Talk. WGNS time 5:45. We've talked MTSU basketball, MTSU college football. Now we're going to talk some regular college football. And the CFP rankings were released last night. I was sitting on my couch back in Spencer, Tennessee, watching it all go down. I've had my reservations with the rankings this year, and I'm sure you may feel the same way, Willie, but looking at some of the rankings that were released last night, obviously the big glaring one that I think a lot of people, most people probably are talking about, is the Miami-Notre Dame dilemma. So Notre Dame currently ranked 9th. Miami did move up a spot over Utah after their close call with Kansas State. I think it was 51-47 was the final. Insane game. But I think the question that a lot of people have at this point is there going to be enough time for Miami to get above Notre Dame and make that head-to-head comparison possible, because you're talking about comparative pools and these two teams aren't in the same, I guess, pool right now. So how is that all going to go down in your mind, and what do you think in your gut is going to happen when we have Selection Sunday in a couple weeks with that situation?
Well, I think it really shows that the committee believes not only that Miami's going to win the ACC, but that the rest of the ACC is going to crumble around Miami right now as it stands, because Miami's got to get some help to get in. And that big thing that I see is UVA, who is ranked at 18th in the CFP poll.
Yeah.
They are currently, if the season ended today, they're one of the 2 that are going to Charlotte for the Atlantic Coast Championship. I think it shows the CFP doesn't really trust the Cavaliers. A big matchup for them coming up on Saturday, the Commonwealth clash between UVA and my Hokies, where although Tech having a down year, they've always owned UVA. They've lost once to the Cavaliers in football in my lifetime.
That's crazy.
Once in my lifetime. I very vividly remember it. I was shocked because it's just not a thing that happens to Hokie fans, is losing to UVA. So I think right now it shows that the committee, not huge on the rest of the ACC, so they've got Miami slotted at 12, but both teams 9-2, Miami with the win over Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what's going on there. It feels like they've always kind of had a little bit of a love affair for Notre Dame, but out of conference or independent schedule for the Irish, and not really a crazy strong strength of schedule either. I mean, a couple big matchups for them earlier in the season, starting 0-2 with the loss to A&M, although they played them decently close.
Right.
We've seen the team that A&M has transformed into, but losing to Miami, but they're still above them by 3 or 4 spots. It's head scratching to me, Dylan. I completely agree with you on that one.
I am fully prepared, and full disclosure for those who don't know, I am a Miami fan. 2 ACC fans here, as a matter of fact. Don't see that in Tennessee every day. But I'm fully prepared for the committee to keep Miami out of the CFP. I think it's inevitable. I just don't see them putting Miami above BYU, especially if BYU makes the Big 12 championship. I don't know if they're going to be able to clear that hurdle. And if Alabama wins, then to me, it's too much ground to make up, even though it's only 3 spots. I think the committee, Heather Dinich said it last night on the air. She was talking about how just because they've got the head-to-head right now, that doesn't mean it's going to come into play because they're still too far apart. Usually when they speak with, or when Heather reports on that, it's the committee's way of trying to warn people, hey, get ready, because we're probably going to do something. They did the same thing with Florida State in 2023 when Jordan Travis got injured. I worry they're signaling the same thing here. So to be honest with you, man, I'm banking on Miami somehow making the ACC championship, which is possible. Slim, but it is possible. If Duke loses, if Virginia loses to your Hokies, then Miami would get in the ACC championship. So I'm really counting on Virginia Tech to come through for me on Saturday. Hopefully they'll do that for me, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the way I'm leaning. But the ACC, it's just been... They've killed themselves so much that they're not going to be at a point to where they get an at-large bid. It's going to be that guaranteed conference champion. And then looking at the Big 12, because you mentioned BYU being 1 spot ahead of Miami and playing a large part in that, I think the Big 12 has a chance to where they're also a team where they only get the guaranteed bid. I think there's got to be a lot of different things that happen. I think BYU's got to lose, and that would place Utah, they would be tied, so that would still be BYU getting into the championship for that conference. But I think BYU would have to lose 3, and then Vandy has to pull off the upset in Knoxville this weekend to kind of try to lock the Big 12 out and only have Texas Tech get in.
Yes, and I think that's what I wanted to touch on real quick as well, because obviously the talk around here is the Vandy-Tennessee matchup. I think Vanderbilt, according to the playoff predictor, has a 50% chance to make it in, but we'll see about that. I heard that from somewhere. But either way, it's going to be a bit slimmer because they're obviously behind a couple of 2-loss teams right now, Miami and Utah, the ones I can think of right off the bat. But if you go into Neyland and you beat Tennessee, you've at least got a shot. So in your mind, do you think Vandy's going to have enough? We followed Vandy pretty closely this year, been to a couple of their games, been to College Game Day. Do you think they're going to have enough to win in Knoxville?
I think if they're ever going to do it within the next 5 or so years, or at least the tenure of Clark Lee at Vandy, I think it's this year.
Yeah.
This team's got some firepower, especially running the ball between what Pavia is able to do. I mean, very outspoken character in the media, and I think a lot of people kind of see him either as a villain or a hero. And regardless of that, he's able to produce with his legs. And then Cedric Alexander out of the backfield as well for the Doors. Pavia, not the best throwing the ball. They got a couple good targets on the outside. They've got Eli Stowers at tight end as well. And this defense, it's enough to throw the ball, make the Vols have to throw the ball, which is where you want them to be.
Right.
If you can make Joey Aguilar make a mistake, and he's a guy sitting double-digit interceptions right now. He's got 10 along with his 23 touchdowns. That's what they've got to do. They got to win that turnover battle and force Aguilar into mistakes. But if they're just going to let Tennessee run over them, let Deshaun Bishop, other guys in that backfield cook on the ground, then I think it's going to be Tennessee far and away. But if there's ever going to be a chance for Vanderbilt to do it in Knoxville, it's going to be this week.
I would agree with that. I think it comes down especially to how the secondaries play, because you've got 2 teams that like the pass pretty heavily. I think Tennessee leans pass a little bit more than Vandy. Obviously, Joey Aguilar has really been the Vols' offense this year. They desperately missed Dylan Sampson from a year ago. They haven't had nearly as good of a rushing game. So I think it's going to come down to which secondary comes out on top. As much as I have, loved Vandy, loved watching them this year, to be honest with you, it's tough for me to imagine them going into Neyland and getting that kind of victory. But don't doubt Diego Pavia. He's proven time and time again that he can prove you wrong and go out there and beat the odds. So that's going to be a really entertaining game. Several other ranked matchups as well. You've got Texas A&M, Texas. The one I really wanted to talk about was Alabama-Auburn. there's been a lot of discussions, I would say, about Alabama's history going into Jordan-Hare Stadium against the Auburn Tigers and their close calls against them the last couple times. Do you think there is a realistic scenario where Alabama loses to Auburn on this Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the spread right now, Alabama only being favored by 6.5 over a 5-6 team is kind of alarming. And the other thing is Auburn has absolutely nothing to lose. I mean, they've already sent Hugh Freeze on his way out the door. They've got true freshman Deuce Knight starting at quarterback, his red shirt protected regardless. And he's the guy that really lit up a Mercer team last week. And although Mercer FCS level, I mean, of course you're supposed to do that, but first collegiate start coming out, 5 or 6 touchdowns, looking good, doing some things on the ground. It feels like it would be the most Alabama thing against Auburn to go into Jordan-Hare against this team without a head coach, with a true freshman 5-star quarterback, and just lay an egg.
It could very well happen, and we've seen it happen before, so I'm going to be very curious to watch that Iron Bowl. A lot of big games coming up throughout this weekend in the world of college football, especially on Friday. You've got Georgia Tech, Texas A&M, Texas. I think the Egg Bowl's on Friday as well, so it's going to be a stacked Friday and then a stacked Saturday of college football action. A lot of good stuff coming up on WGNS as well. Of course, we'll have basketball coming up Monday, and MTSU football takes on New Mexico State right here on WGNS, so stay tuned for that. Willie, thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully we can do it again sometime, right?
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. I really appreciate you having me on.
All right, Willie, thank you so much for joining me, and thank all of you for joining me as well on this Wednesday night. Enjoy your Thanksgiving turkey tomorrow. We will see you next week with more All Sports Talk. So long, and have an electric night, everybody.
This has been All Sports Talk on WGNS.
Subscribe to Big G TV, local content that matters to Rutherford County.